California. You won't be seeing any touchdowns scored or any home runs hit. However, you won't be shortchanged when it comes to action. With me tonight is the star of the new film, Jim Buck, also a sports fan, a motocross nut, Richard Roundtree.
Pal, you got a thought? John, I'm a big sports fan, but what you're about to see is a lot of action, like we almost falling down. But this is all about action here.
You got something specific in mind?
Well, nothing overly significant, just this.
Oh, man. Let's get out of this action so we can watch it. As we get ready for the first heat in the United States Stadium Motocross Finals before a sellout crowd of 43,094, with me tonight, the man who originated Stadium Motocross, Mike Goodwin. Mike, I know 43,094 has to make you feel pretty good.
John, not only myself, but my banker. We've been looking forward to this for years and got some of the best stadium racers in the world down there on the line now, getting ready to go for it.
Well, in the first heat, we have 20 people trying to qualify for 5 spots. Jimmy Weinert, who you just saw on your screen, has to be the favorite in this match. He's been the #1 man in motocross for over a 10-year period, with a few newcomers coming into play.
In addition to that, we've got Hannah, who has really led the series this year. Galen Mosier, who's done very good. Mike Bell, a Southern California hot shoe. They're ready to go.
And they're off. And I'll tell you, coming out of that starting gate, it looks like a Chinese fire drill. I hope it thins out a little in the first couple turns. Coming around the first turn, you can see Bob Hannah's in the #1 position. Monty McCoy, 83, is second. Looks to me like there is a very competitive situation already. There's a lead change in the first turn. I know that has to be irregular, Mike.
I haven't seen Hannah get past like that in all of his races this year. The kid is a firecracker. Look at McCoy is so psyched, going high in the corners, rooster tailing off, pulling away from Hannah right now, going over the big jump. I haven't seen anything like this. There he goes high again. Hannah's inside. Going to be one heck of a race tonight.
In third position, Chuck Sun, #21. Mike Bell, 339, is fourth. And Jimmy Weinert, racing's #1 driver over the past 10 years, is in 5th place. Remember, 5 of these fellas qualify for the final heat.
Something we just saw there that I haven't seen before is Bob Hannah's style. Just let him jump 2 of the final whoop-de-doos and pick up a couple bike links on these guys. It's going to be a one heck of a race tonight. There they come out in the drag strip down the straight. In fact, you'll notice the bikes are really not separated that much in power. The thing is the driver's skill in the corners. That's the thing that counts totally.
It impresses me when I look at that lump of dirt that these mounds are a bit higher when you're right down on this floor level than they are when you're up 20 or 30 rows.
You actually do lose some of the perspective. Frankly, when you jump one of those things, even a 2 or 3 foot jump is super scary. When you think about that 10 or 12 footer out in the middle of the field, most sane people wouldn't do it.
Maybe all of them.
Well, we don't want to comment on that too much, I'm sure. Here comes McCoy around again, still in the lead.
You say still in the lead, you sound surprised. Hannah's right on his track. Is this very irregular that a guy like Monty McCoy is leading?
I'll tell you, I would have bet against it, although Monty's one fine rider. He's used to riding the Southern California tracks, John, that are a lot shorter, tighter, and don't require their endurance here. What I would say is that he's going to burn himself out and Hannah will pass him. But I'll tell you, Hannah's pushing hard. I'm surprised to see him stay ahead of it.
Well, these turns look like such hairpin jobs.
All it takes is one slight miscalculation in that back wheel, catch a loose piece of sand, and you'll get dropped. And I'm sure before the end of the evening, we're going to see some pretty scary crashes. Again, look at McCoy going high and Hannah low. It's amazing. And McCoy is staying ahead of him.
Michael, you mentioned high, low. Is there a preference as to which way you'd like to take a turn?
Well, it sure is. And in fact, they just reversed their situation there. McCoy just went low. Hannah went high. One of the turns, now look at here. Here goes Hannah out trying to slingshot behind him. The inside line is closer, but the high line slings you out at a higher speed. He picked up about 3 lengths coming up into there, but then here they go again, high and low. Boy, they're close. There goes Hannah on that infamous jump where he takes 2 of them together.
Hey, it's a dogfight. I don't know how they stay on the bike.
Well, we've got Weinert again, the guy with the most experience in the entire race, working his way through.
And picking up the leaders, McCoy and Hannah coming around the far turn. This is where they came out of the gate originally. McCoy still leading Hannah by the slightest of margins. You see Hannah going up underneath. It looks as if he's trying to make a move. He's got him on the high turn. He takes it. Looks like he took McCoy's place. He's in the lead. And as he raises his fist while passing, he described to Richard Roundtree how you make that move.
If I was coming down the straightaway and there was somebody right here beside me on the inside or say the middle, if I follow him, I'm not going to pass him.
Right.
There's just no way. If he falls, then I'll fall. So the smart thing to do would be take the high line.
Leaving the throttle on, is there any braking in that corner?
Yes, but the less braking you do, the faster you go too.
Well, what is the object? Is it just for balance or what? When you put your foot down in that turn, that's not just for balancing. There's got to be something else.
Well, there is some, muscle in it. You don't let the bike over too far, but you got to lean the bike over to go through the corner.
And then you're powering out.
Right.
Is that the same principle as the car racing, I guess? In and
right.
out?
In, brake, drive out hard.
Is there an element of tricking?
Sure.
Because obviously you're behind someone, he doesn't know exactly what you're going to do.
Right, you always watch him. He's listening to you, He wonders where you are. But I always just leave it on until I hear him shut off, leave it on a little longer and turn.
You see, Ma, you didn't raise no fool.
I think that's for sure. And as we get back to the track, Bob Hanna is extending his lead over Monty McCoy. Chuck Sun's third. Mike Bell is fourth, with Jimmy Weinert still grinding down, remaining in fifth place. Again, we repeat. It's necessary to finish fifth to get a spot in the final. From Anaheim, John Brody with Mike Goodwin. We're in Heat 1 of the Stadium Motocross Finals. The 6th lap. Bob Hanna is increasing his lead. Chuck Sun has just overtaken Monty McCoy. Mike Bell is fourth. And Jimmy Weinert, the 1976 Stadium Motocross champ, is grinding, trying to catch Hanna, get himself a place in the finals. And we talked to Jimmy about the conditions and the equipment that now exist in motocross.
Jimmy, there's probably no better indicator of how far the sport of motocross has come than to look at these two boots. Now, this one being the first one you wore, this one looking more like a moon shoe being the one you now wear. Is there really that much difference between this shoe and that one?
Yes, there is. When I started a long time ago, there was a big difference, too. I really didn't know how to race, what to put on, how to use it. And as we went along and developed things, we found out we needed more protection, more stability, and the plastic boot does offer that.
Jim, you don't look like a real big man. Now, this stuff has to weigh about 25 pounds by the time you put it all on. How do you handle it?
Well, it might look like 20 pounds, but really I only put on about 10 to 12 pounds of this equipment. And the problem is, we need the maximum amount of safety, but yet the minimum amount of weight. And so we have a very fine line there between, good protection and very light protection. And I think we have it down to a science now. We know exactly what we have to put on. And sometimes I do wear a little bit heavier things, but I have the safety there.
And everyone's privy to all this information, or are you the only guy that goes out on the track with an edge?
Well, on my body, I know what's on it, and so I think I have an edge.
Back to Heat 1. We're talking about Jimmy Weinert trying to stay in the hunt. He's got some grinding to do to catch up to Bobby Hanna. He's been grinding from moment one, coming into the hairpin turn, getting started pretty well. Mike, I know you have to be impressed with Jim Weinert being able to race for 10 years.
Yeah, I tell you, John, the fellow can be as fast and as consistent as he has at his age, has a tremendous amount of natural talent. For example, now look, he's just about to pass Monty McCoy there. He's really putting a move on him. You'll remember Monty led for the first part of the lap and has dropped back into 5th or 6th. There he goes by him. Now strategy is going to play an important part, high or low line. Oh, geez, there he fell. That's going to really mess his chances up for the rest of the night. It throws your timing off. It just, now his bike won't start. He's going to have some severe problems. Now,
Mike, I know what it's done to his body, but what has it done to his chances to get back into the final without having to go through a semifinal heat to get into it?
if Jim Weinert pulls up from where he is now, which must be back in 8th or 9th, and makes it to the top 5 slots, it's one miracle. And frankly, it makes a difference between a big payday and no payday at all. Because if he has to go to the semifinals, he races an extra 10 laps before he gets into the final, where the other 19 guys are fresh and have only raced once that night. However, Jimmy came back at the granddaddy of them all, the Super Bowl of motocross at the LA Coliseum this past year from a severe fall and won the whole thing overall, took all the marbles. So frankly, he can do it.
Well, as we see, Bobby Hannah's in a clear-cut lead right now. He's driving very comfortably. Seems to be still putting the throttle to it. I guess he only has one way to go.
I don't think he's got any way to go except win it. He doesn't want to push too hard because if he falls, there's always that chance of making that slight mistake.
As you say, Bob Hannah's comfortably in the lead. He's followed by Chuck Son, Mike Bell. In fourth place, Monty McCoy in the red uniform, and Danny Laporte trying to lap a slower rider. I tell you, coming into the last 3 laps, Mike, it has to be very grinding on all the drivers.
We've had some severe mistakes take place right in the last lap. In fact, some losses take place in the last 50 feet. You're seeing a great race here. It's super.
Jimmy Weinert, who we see grinding his way from 6th place, trying to catch Monty McCoy for 5th. He's got an uphill battle at this time. He's only got 1 lap to go as we see the white flag, which indicates only 1. He's got it at full throttle, Mike. Can he catch him from here?
I know he wants to get that 5th position. The white flag signals the last chance, or he has to go into that meat grinder of moto, which is just like going to Siberia.
And it looks like it's all downhill for Bobby Hannah. He's only got 100 yards to go in order to claim victory in the first heat. Number 2 looks like he's cruising gently. In 2nd place is Chuck Son. 3rd, Mike Bell. 4th, Danny Laporte, the man who passed Jimmy Weinert on that spill. And in 5th place, in the red suit, Monty McCoy. Here he comes around the turn. He's only got a little less than 100 yards to go. Looks like it's pretty clear sailing for him, and I guess these guys start feeling easy about this time, don't they, Mike?
Well, I'll tell you, we've seen a lot of mistakes in the last few laps. I know they want to. But here comes Weinert. Now, look, he's still picking it up. He is getting awfully close and could make it. You'll see him really pop the metal to it. Look at him go down that start straight, and his guys getting out there and egging him on.
And we see the checkered flag. It's Hannah, Son, Mike Bell, Danny Laporte, and Monty McCoy. And Jim Weinert has to go again in the semis and down to Richard Roundtree.
You were in 2nd place for the first 4 laps. Did you have a plan to do it that way or what?
Well, I know how that guy rides, you know, and I didn't want to get tangled up with him and crash, so I just stayed back until he made a mistake and then went by then.
Just waiting for him to make the first mistake.
Right.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Bobby.
And as the winner of the first heat, Bob Hannah leaves the track. We'll be back with more motocross in just a bit. John Brody with Mike Goodwin and Richard Roundtree in Anaheim, California for the Stadium Motocross Finals. We're looking at a track now as a rider perceives it while he goes around it. It has to be a quite different viewpoint than that of the man who sits in the stands 20 rows deep. Would you say that, Mike?
Well, that's true. And total perception has changed. In fact, you see a little ribbon, a snake of dirt in front of you, and that's all you're concentrating on. You're on a mechanical bucking Bronco that's faster than a racing Ferrari, just bucking your body to bits, trying to pass the guy that's right in front of you. I'll tell you, it's tough.
Well, Mike, being the originator of these tracks, we talked a little earlier about just how in the heck do you put these things together?
One of the first men to get the show off the road and into the stadium where they can have a motocross event of this magnitude is Mike Goodwin, the producer of this whole show. Mike, really, how do you get all this dirt from where it was to where it is? Because I've never seen this stadium in such a shamble.
A lot of other people say the same thing. We have a staff of 11 people work year-round, and we have one fellow in particular that works with blueprints and like that for each one of the stadiums, bringing 200,000 cubic feet of dirt. Has to be a special kind of dirt with about a 60% loam, 40% sand composition, so it provides the right traction, firms up in the corners, a lot of things that may be foreign to you but are very important to the riders and to the spectators for the show. What we did is take all of our past tracks, we've done 9 events now, and go through with the team managers, the riders, and pick out the most unique aspects of each track. And the one thing that kept surfacing was the fact that none of the stadiums had a long enough straightaway. Took the track all the way back to the far wall, put a straightaway in here with 540 feet long. The longest on an indoor stadium up to this point had been under 300 feet long. If the guys are geared right, they could almost reach 80 miles an hour here, although I think for their gearing to come out of the corners, they'll probably be around 70.
As we take a look down at the track, 43,904 people are anxiously awaiting the start of the semifinal.
Richard, we're getting ready for the second semifinal. It has particular significance because Jimmy Weinert fell off his bike, did not make it on the first heat. has one more chance to make it, has to finish in the top 2. Do you have a feeling?
John, all I got to ask you is what number is he wearing?
He's wearing number 1.
Hello.
That's a pretty good reaction.
He's going to come out. He's going to come out number 1. Watch.
You think it's time to collect the check?
Oh, yes.
And you think he'll be
the
there?
man is going to go for the money.
Well, let's take a look.
Well, John, there's Jimmy sitting at the starting line. He knows this is his last chance. We've watched him throughout the evening, having his bad luck, his falls. This is the first time ever that Jimmy's been stuck in a semifinal. And I just noticed something down there, sitting beside him, and I think that, let me look closer, that is Pierre Karsmakers is in the semifinal also. Pierre is a past national champion, an ex-racer from Europe. These guys are on the line together, 2 superstars caught in with the Berserko racers, and you know they're going to try to get ahead of the pack, because these are the kind of guys that at any time can fall. The start is ever important. They are watching the thing. When that gate drops, they have got to go for it because that first turn is going to be critical. And there goes Weinert now. He's got an awfully good start there. Somebody can beat him, but he's on the inside line. There he goes. He's really getting through there. I don't know who that is ahead of him. He's going to have to get ahead because these guys, any one of them can fall and mess him up for the whole evening. He's got a tight race going there, though. And I wish I could tell from here who it is, John.
Looks like Jimmy Turner. If Jimmy Turner is...
That is Turner. Turner is really putting on a show. Now, Weinert got by him, but I'm not so sure if he's not going to catch up. Well, there goes Weinert's experience. He's going on the high line. He wants to get ahead of these guys because, you know, at any time, one of these guys with a lot less experience could fall right in front of him, knock him out of his only chance. He almost lost it then. He may be over his head, not knowing how close the guy is behind him.
Well, Mike, we had a chance to talk with Jimmy before the semifinal about his outlook toward his first semifinal heat.
Jimmy, we discussed the possibility of, of a second chance. It's one that you've never had to need. Now you do. You fell off. You almost got 5th place anyway, and how does it leave you?
Well, I'm depressed, let me tell you. I've never been in this predicament, as you said, and I'm going to face it, and I hope I can get 1st and 2nd in this semi. If not, I ride to consolation, and I am not looking forward to that at all.
You mentioned that oftentimes the semifinals are the roughest heat of all.
It's rougher than the main event because they only take 2 guys out of the top finishers to make it to the main, and boy, there's a lot of good guys in there, and when you only take 2 out of a lot of good guys, I'm going to go wide open. I have to.
Well, coming from a layman, I think you'll be there.
Well, thank you very much, John.
All right.
But an interesting battle there for second. The transfer slot, the bubble they call it because it's so easy to burst. Ron Pomeroy is Jim Pomeroy's talented younger brother. Kent Howerton is the existing 500cc national champ. Should be quite a battle.
We're in the 5th lap of the semifinal. Jimmy Weinert is taking a commanding lead. Ron Pomeroy is second. There are only 2 places available.
Oh, gee, that's a brutal crash there. Wayne Boyer, number 25 down there, really, John just took a roller. The bike slapped him on the back. Lucky that he has all that protective gear. This is one of the worst parts. The starts and staying on the bike are probably the 2 most important facets of stadium motocross.
And we had a chance to put some of these starts and spills together. It's amazing to me that less people than you would expect actually get injured.
And John, you see right here a classic example of a perfect start. The guys are poised, ready to go. There you go. Nobody jumps the gate. Just because their wheel goes up doesn't mean they jump the gate. You have no bounce backs, which is what happens when someone hits the gate too soon, runs them backwards, they automatically penalize themselves. You'll notice other things happening here. It's a situation where they watch the stopwatch. They are not watching the flag. What happens, there's a 2-minute sign, it's turned sideways to a 1-minute sign, and then it's turned sideways, and the gate has to drop within 10 seconds of that. Many riders watch the lower tube of the gate with a piece of tape on it that pulls sideways rather than watching the flagman himself. Those are the fastest guys.
How soon do they start watching the drivers themselves coming out of there?
Well, if you were right here, that's when you'd watch, because this is where a crash, in fact, a crash is just taken, number of the riders out right there. You've taken 5 or 6 riders out with one guy's mistake. It's a classic example. If you get in front on a stadium race, you're way in advantage. Here's another guy. We're lucky they're not hurt a lot. We have a tremendous amount of really disaster-looking crashes, but the protective gear they wear, even though it's just a few pounds of fiberglass, nylon, and leather, really protects these guys pretty well, even though they may be bounced off a 200-pound projectile.
I see most of these guys get up after a spill smiling. What's the humor? Sadistic?
Well, I think the kid really needed a rest, frankly. If I was out there, wouldn't you need one?
I need one, but just looking. Well, we're back in the 6th lap. Jimmy Weinert has a clear-cut lead. Kent Howerton and Pierre Karsmakers are vying for second place. As you know, only 2 people qualify for the finals, so it's really down to Howerton and Karsmakers. Pierre Karsmakers, Mike, is a guy who was an international Grand Prix rider. Did he figure it's going to be a little easier than he's finding it today?
Well, when Pierre came over here about 3 or 4 years ago, I'm sure he planned on cherry picking. And in fact, the first year he was over, he was the 500cc national champ. The American riders have gotten a lot better since then, and they've become very specialized in stadium motocross.
And as we have a chance to see Jimmy Weinert in a commanding lead for the first time today, it might be good just to hear about some of the viewpoints he has toward this wonderful sport.
Jimmy, being the grand old man of this sport at the ripe age of 27, racing kids that are 18 and 19 years old, does it make you feel like a father? And how did you get started? I mean, it's been 10 years of exposure for you and a lot of bumps and bruises.
Well, I just tell them to make sure they respect their elders, and most of the time they do. And I got started when I was 16, back in New York. My dad had a motorcycle shop, which made it very easy for me. I went on from there to go straight into professional racing. I started with professional motocross, and now here I am, 10, 11 years later, just having a good time. It's very hard work. You have to train very hard at it, and a lot of dedication, a lot of skill you need, talent, and just the determination to go on.
As you can see here now, it's unfortunate. It's a sad spot. Pierre Karsmakers, the former Grand Prix international champion, is stuck back, not coming into the top 2 transfer positions, unfortunately. And it looks like ahead of him is naturally Jim Weinert, who's been hard luck until right now, and then the 500cc national champion, Kent Howerton, who's going to pull the second place slot. Both of them will have a chance at all the marbles.
Well, as you mentioned, Mike, it's awful nice to be in the finals. We see the checkered flag, and we'll go down to Richard Roundtree with winner Jimmy Weinert.
First of all, I want to tell you, I'm glad to see you here.
Thank you very much.
Being number 1, wearing that number 1 shirt, you had to do a lot of work to get up there, to get in, to qualify. Was that kind of difficult for you?
Well, the heat race was very difficult. I got knocked down, and first I got a bad start and started catching up, and I was in 5th to qualify. Then I got knocked down, and I had to work my way up again, but I didn't make it. This is the first time I ever had to ride a semi, and I was really scared because, I'm going, here I am, number 1. I better get in that main event.
What I want to ask you is, did you fall back just a little bit because you were so far out ahead? Did you kind of notice you were that far ahead? Did you kind of just,
Well, yeah, my mechanic was giving me the signals over there, and I said, I already rode the heat 10 laps. I rode this 10 laps. There's 10 more than the guys that made it to the main straight, so I cooled a little bit, so I should have enough energy for the main.
Well, Jimmy Weinert's in, and we'll be back in a bit with the finals of the Stadium Motocross competition. From Anaheim, California, John Brody with Mike Goodwin and Richard Roundtree, preparing for the finals of the Stadium Motocross competition. All of the favorites have made it to the finals with the exception of Pierre Karsmakers. He's a disappointed young man. All the rest are anxiously awaiting the start of this finals. We know you're interested in their reaction, so we went down to take a look at the 2 favorites in today's race, Jimmy Weinert and Bobby Hannah.
Well, you've had a chance, unlike a lot of the guys now, that you've had a chance to rest, and none of the guys have gone to a couple of races. You have to have somewhat of an advantage at this point.
Yeah, I'm pumped up. I'm ready.
You look ready.
Jimmy, you mentioned your pride was hurt, and now you are in what you intended to be in. Is it still sticky a little?
No, now I can relax and do what I want to do, race and try and win it, and I feel pretty good now.
Well, I feel pretty good that you're in it.
John, the tension is really running high down there in the start line. This is it, the thing they've waited all year for. The smoke from the engines, they've been warming them up for several minutes, is hanging like a deadly pallor right over that start line. These guys are waiting for the gate to drop. One of them's going to come out at the winner. We've got everybody down there. All the Team Honda riders, Yamahas, Bob Hannah. Everybody's ready to go. Months of preparation. They hope that maybe one bolt hasn't been let loose. It's very exciting. Now we're going to go down and talk to John and Dick at the start line.
Seems ironic, but it is true. They've been racing all day long just to get an opportunity to be in this race, which really means everything. Richard, there have been some close calls. There haven't been too many surprises. We still have Marty Smith, Jim Pomeroy, Jimmy Weinert, You know, you've got a Bob Hanna, so all the favorites are at the gate. What do you think?
What do I think? You gonna put me on the spot, eh? All right, I'll commit myself. I gotta go with Bobby.
Well, they're down at the gate. You can tell they're pumped up. Their motors are revved. And until that baby goes down, you won't see much action. But when it falls, Katie barred the door. And they're off. Coming out of that bunch, I don't see how you can tell who's in the lead. Of course, that man in the yellow uniform is Bobby Hanna. Looks like he's second to John Savitsky, a newcomer. He is second at the first turn. You can see he's riding tough, going into the high side of the turn.
John, it seems to me there that John Savitsky is really over his head trying to keep up with Hanna on a course like this. Now, Savitsky's a privateer, not one penny of factory-back money. The kid is fast, but the thing happens is he crashes quite often and puts himself right out. Wait, Jesus, now, wasn't him? Somebody right behind him went over the high side on the thing. That's a classic tank slapper and high side. While we were talking there, Hanna just passed. Oh, here we are now. That is Jim Ellis, two-time Mike Bell, number 339. Just screamed Ellis as he was pushing his bike onto the course. Ellis looks like he's down. I hope he's not hurt. He's had some crashes before that have torn the front end off his machine, but this one has got him on his back. John, I don't know what's happening there, but it looks bad.
Well, it can never be good when the rider doesn't get off the ground while those fellas are riding their motorcycles around the track. It does appear to me that they are really going for it, as they quote a phrase in this game. Do they have more accidents in the finals than they might in the heat?
They do, because they've got nothing to lose by going fast except falling right there. Now, a guy in an earlier heat, he falls, he may not qualify for the final. But in this one, like take Jim Weinert, for example.
Here he goes.
Jim just fell. And Jim has really been a hard luck story tonight. One of the best racers we've got out there. He's down again. Now, that's got to take something out of him. He's fallen once, twice, or three times tonight. He just lost several positions. And like you say, there's nothing to do but go for it. They put the throttle all the way to the wick. It's either win or lose for the evening in this race, John.
Right now, Bobby Hanna, John Savitsky, and Jim Pomeroy are all putting the whip to the throttle. We don't know who will win. It's 1, 2, 3 at this point. In my opinion, it's awfully hard for Jimmy Weinert to come back, having fallen twice already tonight. He knows the odds are against him. Bob Hanna is still in the lead. Jim Pomeroy has overtaken John Savitsky for second place. Tommy Croft is fourth, and Galen Mosier is fifth.
Hey, we've got something really fantastic shaping up here, John. We've got really the 24 best stadium racers in the entire world. Something that hasn't been mentioned earlier tonight is that Graham Noyce, the British champion and one of the top 5 finishers in the World Grand Prix, is also competing, and you don't even see him in the top 5. When you've got something like that going, you know you've got some hot racing. For example, now you're watching Pomeroy there, and you can see a little further back in the pack, Croft is really about to put the move on Savitsky. You can tell each corner he picks up a couple laps, and what's happening here is the experience of Croft overtaking the enthusiasm of Savitsky.
You mean his enthusiasm has waned a bit, or he's just tired?
Well, he just got it just then. I just noticed it. He's getting tired. I mean, he still wants to win just as bad, because this means the difference between all the marbles and just gas money going home on this kind of race. Now you've got something you very seldom see. You've got two teammates, both top dog Honda riders. Pomeroy, who's won a Grand Prix in the past, and Croft, who was placed in a Grand Prix, are both neck on neck, and I'll tell you, he's going to be going for it.
You know, we've talked an awful lot about the energy levels, about the way these guys get after it. What are they getting after? How much cash is involved for each of these riders?
Well, it varies with every race and every rider, depending on their factory situation. This is a race, unlike race cars, where in the factory probably supports 2/3 or more. Oh, geez, was that Savitsky? We talked about him getting tired. That's what happened. Your concentration level goes down, and the bike gets ripped right out of your arms. But he's backing up. Looks like he's not hurt bad. That's super. In any event, I think you just showed it. I mean, there's a lot of risk in this sport, and the guys do get paid for it well. The world champion earns over $250,000 a year. One of the top racers in here, because of IRS, I probably shouldn't mention who it is, took home a net taxable income last year of $118,000. Down to the guys that may not even get paid gas money to go home that don't qualify. But that's the big suspense.
And we also know that man number 2 is filling his pail today. He has taken a very commanding lead. And you notice what I notice about him is we've heard so much about conditioning and energy. It looks to me as if he allows the bike to ride him, and it has to be an awful lot easier on him.
You really picked it right there. That is the one thing that can be said about Bob Hanna's style. He is so fluid that he almost looks out of control. Some people call him berserko, but he's not. He lets the bike go where it wants to go. He steers it with body English and throttle, and you can see the results, John.
Well, I know one thing. It does take conditioning.
The one thing that has become apparent over the years is that as the tracks get tougher, the conditioning becomes far more important. Since 1972, when we hosted our first stadium motocross with only 27,000 fans, till this year we had over 400,000 fans for our events. They're demanding tougher, rougher courses. I was standing by while you discussed some of these track developments today with Jim Pomeroy.
What is the difference, like in the track tonight as opposed to outdoor tracks?
Well, I think the tracks on the indoors are getting better and better because it's getting more experience. They've been on the circuit now for maybe 4, going on 5 years, indoor tracks. They're starting to get where they're wider, safer, better for passing, and it's actually better for the spectators because you get to see more action going on all the time, and it's getting better all the time. I think it's going to, in the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot more radical changes, but it's going to be for the better.
And I think if action is what you want, you can certainly see it very well here. I don't know how they can show you any more. And as we pick up Bob Hanna in the 9th lap, he's still got more than half the course to ride. He is leading, Jim Pomeroy second, and Tommy Croft third. We're nearing the halfway mark of this 20-lap Stadium Motocross final competition. Mike, the leaders haven't changed. Bob Hanna, Jim Pomeroy, and Tommy Croft are still remaining in a constant position. I get the feeling, however, that a Bob Hanna is like a Tommy Watson in golf, whereas a Weinert might be an Arnold Palmer or a Jack Nicklaus. Is this so as far as the rest of the competitors is concerned?
John, you can really be sure of that. We've got a real changing of the guard coming about in Stadium Motocross. I think you had a time to talk to several of these guys earlier today.
An awful lot has been said about conditioning. Do you train year-round, or how do you get ready?
You have to, it's like any other professional sport, whether it's football or boxing or whatever, you have to start maybe 2-3 months before the season starts to get really in shape. And then once you're on the road, you're really vulnerable as far as getting sick or with the food changes, time changes, this type of thing. So you might only work out maybe 2-3 times during the week, plus the race on Sunday, and stay in your top shape like you are.
You know, I can't help thinking that watching you ride a motorcycle, that you can play an awful lot of different kinds of sports. Have you got a lot of other activities?
I water ski a little bit. I play racquetball maybe once or twice a week, and I go camping a lot. I have a dune buggy. I'm building a dune buggy right now, and can't wait to get that done. I'll go out and play in the sand dunes a little bit on my time off.
I can't help noticing that you train on ice cream. Is that your meal?
Yeah, I don't worry about a diet too much. I just eat whatever I feel like eating, I eat.
And get out and run them in the ground, huh?
I try.
All right, have a go at it. What specific type of training do you do?
I work out on the Nautilus system, and I'm sure a lot of people know about that now. I do that for 45 minutes to an hour. Then I run on the treadmill, and then I run on the beach a lot at home, in the hills, and then I ride my motorcycle. And you put this all together, and that just spells top condition. I've done so many high school assemblies lately talking to the young kids, and they want to know what's the key, and the word is sacrifice. You know, they want to go out and party with their friends and that, but I says, why don't you do your job first, and then when you're finished and made it, go out and party then.
And enjoy it more, huh?
And enjoy it, because you know, I love it. I go out training, and I've gotten into such a routine now. You know, if I don't go out and train, I feel terrible.
It seems like they all do it differently, but they all do train, and I guess that's the key to any sport. We're back in the 19th lap. The lead has not changed. Bob Hanna is clearly in first place, extending his lead, if anything. Jim Pomeroy is a solid second with Tommy Croft third. Galen Mosier is fourth, and Marty Smith is fifth.
You know, right now in the 19th and then the final lap, John, is when that conditioning really counts. We had some metabolic tests that were taking place in England that showed that professional motocross was second only to soccer in the physical demands it placed on the human body. Not a lot of people will like this, but in fact they found that pro football came in at 8th.
Well, I not only don't like it, I'm not sure it's so. Sometimes I get the feeling, Mike, as we see the white flag just waved for the 20th and last lap, and Bob Hanna in a commanding lead, that we're really putting out a physical fitness promo for motocross.
Well, I'll tell you, it is a very tough sport. However, a lot of skill and machine preparation really does come into it. For example, it might be easy to assume that Bob Hanna is going to automatically win. However, in the 10 races of the Stadium Series this year, we've had half of those of instances where the fellow won or lost in the last lap. Jim Pomeroy, who's going to be a bridesmaid tonight, in fact, the first race of the year, was leading into the final lap. 50 feet from the finish, a slower rider fell in front of him. He's been turning. He stalled his motor. Bob Hanna passed him for the most climatic finish of the year.
Well, I get the feeling as we watch Jim Pomeroy that he's going to be a distant second tonight. I've enjoyed being with you, Mike, and I think I've learned more about one particular sport on a given night than I ever have about any before. And I think you've also entertained all the viewers with your knowledge. So thanks to you. I think as we come right down around the last turn, we're going to see the man in the checkered flag. We've got him. Bob Hanna wins the Stadium Motocross Championship. We've had a great afternoon, and as I look at the crowd, it's hard for me to believe that this sport is still in its infancy. You know, the order of finish again: Bob Hanna, Jim Pomeroy, Tommy Croft, Galen Mosher, and Marty Smith in that order. And now down to Richard Roundtree with the winner.
You've won enough races at this point this year to have this race not mean that much to you, other than the fact the financial reward at the end and the fact that you're a competitor. But what pushes you on?
I don't know. I don't like being at home when there's a race going on, you know. So I didn't have to come here. I don't know. I really didn't want to, maybe, but I don't like sitting at home and listening about somebody winning and thinking I might beat them. You know? I'd rather be there and either lose or win, you know.
I can think of an awful lot of your competitors who wished you had stayed home. But thanks for coming, Bob Hanna. You gave us all our money's worth. And it's goodbye from John Brody, Mike Goodwin, and Richard Roundtree from Anaheim, California.